Welcome, dreamer. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. You've arrived at a gentle space where sleep stories aren't just for rest, but for reflection, where ancient wisdom meets soft storytelling to bring comfort, insight, and calm to your evenings. Each story we share is designed not only to help you drift into peaceful sleep, but to offer something deeper, a quiet reminder of how to move through life with softness, courage, and trust. If that sounds like the kind of journey your heart needs, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. We'd love to walk beside you, one slow breath at a time. Tonight's story is called The Cloud That Would Not Rain. It takes place in a quiet village, one that has gone too long without water, and where a single cloud waits overhead, full, unmoving, and mysterious. But this is not a story about storms. It's a story about patience, about trusting what we cannot control, and about the quiet power that comes when we stop forcing life and begin to flow with it instead. Rooted in the soft wisdom of Taoist philosophy, this tale gently invites you to consider that stillness isn't a failure, but a preparation. Before we begin, let's take a moment to fully arrive here together. Close your eyes now. If you haven't already, let your body settle. Let your shoulders fall just a little heavier. Feel the bed, the blanket, the ground beneath you, soft, safe, steady. Take a slow, quiet breath in through your nose. Hold it gently and exhale like a wave letting go of the shore. Again, breathe in, hold it gently, and exhale. There's nowhere to be but here, nothing to do but listen. As you breathe, imagine the sky above you, vast, open, and still. A single grey cloud floats peacefully there, not rushing, not trying, just being. That's all you need to be tonight. Not fixed, not perfect, just here. And now, let the story begin.
There was a village tucked in a quiet valley. It was called Yenya, a place once known for its soft rivers and green gardens that fed generations. But now, the rivers were gone, the soil was cracked, and the people were tired. They had waited for the rain, they had prayed, offered, begged the sky, but it remained still. Each morning, a single cloud hung in the sky, dark, full, unmoving. It appeared just above the hills at dawn, but it never released its rain. The villagers began to call it cruel. They said it mocked them, that it had forgotten their suffering, but not everyone agreed. Ori was just a boy, quiet, curious, full of soft wonder. He had never known Yenya when it was lush, but he had heard the stories. Each day, while others worked or worried, Ori walked to the hilltop and sat beneath the cloud's shadow. He asked it questions, he told it stories. He never demanded, only listened. The cloud never answered, not with words, but Ori felt something each time he sat in its shade, a kind of hush, a feeling that things were happening even if unseen. When the villagers scoffed at him, he simply smiled. Maybe, he would say gently, the cloud knows something we don't. As the weeks wore on, the mood in Yenya darkened. The elders argued quietly over their evening tea. The children played less. The well's bucket began to hit bottom. Whispers turned to worry, worry to blame. "Perhaps the cloud brings a curse," said one. "Perhaps it is waiting for something from us," said another. They spoke of climbing the hills, of demanding rain, of shouting at the sky, of burning herbs to force the heavens to open. But none of it felt right, and the cloud, silent, still, hovered above, unmoved. Ori did not join the worrying. He simply continued his visits, never asking for rain. Instead, he whispered, "If it is not your time to fall, I will wait." He sat beside the roots of an old fig tree, barefoot in the dry grass. He imagined the rain not as something owed, but as a guest who would arrive only when welcomed in silence. That night, as the sky turned to silver, Ori looked up and smiled. The cloud had not moved, but somehow it no longer felt like absence. It felt like presence that required only trust. One morning, the village rose early. Word had spread. Today, they would climb the hill, not to pray, not to plead, but to confront. The elders, wrapped in faded robes, led a group of villagers up the dry path, their voices low, determined. They believed the cloud had held back too long. But Ori was already there, sitting quietly beneath the fig tree. He looked up, calm as ever, hands resting in his lap. When they reached him, he said nothing. He simply looked at the cloud and then at them. "What if," Ori said gently, "we are not ready for the rain?" They stared at him, but no one laughed. And for a moment, the only sound was the wind brushing through the brittle grass. The villagers stood in silence. Some looked at the sky with narrowed eyes. Others glanced at each other, uncertain, uneasy. And something in the stillness softened them. Something about the stillness, the hush of the breeze, the quiet shadow of the cloud reminded them of something forgotten. But no one shouted, no one burned incense, no one begged. They stood with Ori beneath the waiting cloud. Not every problem is solved with action. Not every answer comes with effort. Sometimes it comes with patience. So they sat, and for the first time in many weeks, the village waited together, not with panic, but with quiet. As the sky shifted toward dusk, a strange silence fell, deeper than before, heavier but not frightening. Ori looked up. The cloud, still dark, seemed to stretch, widening across the horizon like a blanket unfurling. Then, without a sound, a single drop fell, and another, soft as breath, warm as memory, sure as time. No thunder, no wind, just rain. And in that gentle beginning, the villagers exhaled, not because they had made it happen, but because they had finally stopped trying. The rain did not fall all at once. It arrived gently, like a long, slow breath, each drop finding its place on thirsty leaves, each rivulet winding its way through cracked soil. No one in the village shouted. No one ran through the streets. They simply stood, still as trees, hands open to the sky, eyes lifted, not in demand, but in quiet thanks. Ori sat cross-legged beneath the fig tree, watching tiny trails of water snake across the hill, filling dry grooves with quiet promise. It was not dramatic, but it was enough. just softened in silence, ready to grow because no one had forced them to. The rain whispered through the night, not to impress, but to nourish, and the valley listened. When dawn arrived, the cloud was gone, not with a bang, not with a blaze, just a soft vanishing, like breath leaving a window pane. The sky glowed pale and wide, and in the valley of Yenya, there was no cheering, no celebration, only the sound of shovels in softened earth and the quiet patter of bare feet on damp ground. Ori returned to the fig tree, now green-tipped and drinking deeply. He sat in his usual place, but this time others came too. No one spoke. They simply joined him to sit, to breathe, to remember what it meant to wait without fear. It wasn't just the valley that had changed, it was the people. The weeks that followed unfolded like a new page, not loud, not fast, but filled with small, steady acts of renewal. The soil held the rain like a gift. It didn't rush to bloom, but soaked it in, deep, quiet, patient. The villagers returned to the fields, not with desperation, but with care. They planted seeds not just in the earth, but in trust, knowing now that growth takes its time. children helped carry buckets from the well, which now brimmed gently with fresh, cool water. Elders hummed as they knelt near garden beds, their hands softer, their eyes brighter. Ori moved among them quietly, not as a leader, but as a presence, like the cloud had been. He still returned to the fig tree each morning, but now the silence he had once kept alone was shared, not a silence of emptiness, but of belonging. And slowly, as roots deepened and green returned to the hills, Yenya remembered a different kind of abundance, not born from control, but from surrender. As the seasons turned, the fig tree at the top of the hill grew broad and full. Its roots ran deep through the stones, nourished by the rain that had once been withheld. Children came to play in its shade. They didn't ask about the cloud, but they knew something important had happened here. Sometimes, when the air was still, the elders would gather beneath the branches and speak in soft voices about what they had learned. They spoke of the waiting, the anger, the fear, and how none of those had opened the sky. They spoke less of the rain and more of what it taught them. Not every hunger is fed by force. Not every drought is a punishment. And not every cloud that waits is empty. They began to see how many things in life, like the sky, the heart, and time itself, move on their own rhythm. They learned to stop clutching the future with fearful hands and instead to open their palms to whatever comes. Years passed. The village of Yenya blossomed again, not as it once was, but as something more grounded, more whole. Children born after the drought would sometimes ask, "Is the story true? Did the cloud really wait above us all that time?" The elders would smile, point to the listening tree and say, "The rain came when we stopped asking for it." Ori, now older, still visited the hill each morning. He watched the sunrise and felt the breeze on his face. Sometimes a bird would perch on a low branch. Sometimes a child would come sit beside him. And every now and then, on a particularly quiet morning, a single dark cloud would appear above the hills, not ominous, but familiar and welcome. No one ran to greet it. No one begged for rain. Instead, they would look up, smile, and offer it the same calm welcome that Ori once had. The cloud rarely rained. It didn't need to. Its presence alone was enough. A reminder of the season they had once survived and the silence that had saved them. Children would ask, "Is that the same cloud from the story?" And the elders would only nod and say, "Perhaps." Or perhaps all clouds carry the same lesson: to trust, to wait, and to listen. And so the cloud became not just a memory, but a teacher that returned from time to time to remind Yenya that life moves best when we no longer try to move it. Now, dear dreamer, as your breath slows and your thoughts begin to drift, carry this with you. There will be seasons in your life where things do not come when you expect, where the sky remains quiet and the answers you long for feel just beyond reach. But not all stillness is absence. to stop forcing and simply be ready. The cloud did not rain because it was begged. It rained when the valley was still enough to receive it. So let this story remind you, you do not have to chase everything. Some things, the truest things, arrive when you stop chasing, when you listen, when you trust. Thank you for joining us for this tale. If it brought you peace, we invite you to subscribe for more stories that offer not just rest, but renewal. Until next time, sleep gently and let whatever is waiting for you find its way in perfect